Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Diane Ryan. I'm an associate dean here at Tisch College, and I have the great pleasure and privilege of welcoming all of you to tonight's event, a conversation and reception with Dr. Noah Wilson-Rich, a proud Tufts alum and this year's recipient of the Lion Bentheim Citizenship Award. So, yay, yeah. So it goes without saying that we wouldn't be able to host today's conversation without the support of J.B. Lyon and Tom Bentheim, two dedicated civic leaders of themselves and members of our board of advisors who have been amazing supporters of Tisch College for more than a decade. And just a little bit of background about this award. JB and Tom were classmates here at Tufts in the class of 1985, and they developed a very strong friendship as well as lifelong commitments to civic engagement and to social impact that has defined their postgraduate careers. Together, they established the Lion Bentheim Citizenship Award to celebrate individuals, groups, or institutions affiliated with the university that have shown a commitment to civic engagement through successful initiatives, creative solutions, or bold leadership, and to connect them with students and alumni on campus. And I want to thank them for their leadership in recognizing outstanding civic leaders in their friendship to Tisch College and the Tufts. This award honors leaders who are making a difference in their chosen field and who live up to our Tufts core values of active citizenship, of civic engagement, and social impact. And Dr. Noah Wilson-Rich certainly embodies these core values in his life and in his work. And so therefore, he has been named this year's recipient of the Lion Bentheim Citizenship Award in recognition of his remarkable contributions to environmental sustainability and social entrepreneurship that his work has had. So Noah is an environmentalist, and the lighting here is terrible and I'm blind. He is an environmental innovator, and his work bridges science, data, business, and impact. He's been the founder and the chief scientific officer of the Best Bees Company and the Urban Beekeeping Laboratory, as well as Bee Sanctuary, which is a 501c3 nonprofit entity. His journey studying and working with the bees actually started here at Tufts. He went to some other school for his undergrad, but he ended up with his PhD in biology in 2011. And fun fact, he actually did all his work in Barnum Hall, which is where Tisch College is now, and he told us all sorts of fun stories about how that building used to be before it got renovated. His investigation into the collapse of the honeybee population eventually grew into the Best Bees Company, a pioneering organization dedicated to supporting pollinator health through research-informed practice and urban beekeeping as a critical tool in environmental conservation. The Best Bees Company uses a custom-built digital platform to collect bee health data and use the data to show the quantifiable impact people and computers have on the environment by opening up their rooftops to pollinators. Today, the Best Bees Company installs and maintains honeybee hives on commercial and residential properties in over 20 cities across the United States. Noah has authored over 20 scientific publications, including his book, The Bee, A Natural History, and has given multiple TED Talks that have enlightened millions. And it was me watching those TED Talks that set me on a path about 5 years ago to say, he needs to give one of those here. He actively collaborates with researchers at NASA, MIT, Harvard, National Geographic, and more, and has been my wonderful friend and collaborator through the 100 Coaches Initiative for the last 5 or 6 years, and finally coming to fruition. So we are so excited and grateful to have him here this evening and are thrilled to celebrate his achievements and contributions that reflect so positively on Tufts together. Noah, your journey from a Tufts graduate student to a nationally recognized environmental leader and entrepreneur truly exemplifies the spirit of this award. So it is now my honor to present to you the 2025 Lion Bentheim Citizenship Award. Yeah, so now we have a privilege of hearing from Noah himself. He's going to tell us a little bit more about his journey, his groundbreaking work with bees, the impact that he's made in science, business, and civic life. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Noah Wilson Rich.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is such an honor. Honestly, it's one of those moments where you look back at your life and you just like, I remember sitting here. This was the faculty lounge. I don't know if this still is, but as a student, getting to sit here and have lunch with the faculty, it's like, oh my gosh, tiptoeing into this room and now being in this room and tiptoeing to get an award, it feels very surreal. And having each of you be here in person and online, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. We're gonna go on a journey tonight. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be short. It's like 15, maybe 20 minutes. So we're gonna start small, like a bee, and we like to say small bees, big impact. So we're gonna go on a journey that's led by the bees that's going to take us from here at Tufts, out the walls, off campus, into outer space, and then do a bit of a landing. Okay, so bear with me, but this is really a journey of what I've been up to, and the clicker is not working, but maybe just on the side. You know, slides are just a tool to talk. So for this concept of citizenship, you know, this is the Lion and Bentheim Citizenship Award. And I thought a lot about what does it mean to be a citizen in these days and times. I mean, these are really trying times. And here at Tufts University, where we as a community have been put on the forefront of the headlines, this is a really difficult time. And so for me, I thought about this concept in the terms of change. Citizenship is ever changing. And that really is a message for my life, both as a student here and as a person. Move to the next one here, let's see, right? Citizenship ever changing. For me, I was interested in pre-med. As a student, I think we're only exposed to certain careers. So maybe if you're looking at certain colleges like BU, congratulations again for getting in. Should be Tufts. You might think of what you know, accountant, doctor, lawyer, teacher. For me, it was doctor, so I said, okay, pre-med. But then as I was learning more, I pivoted from human health, so this is a pointer, so human health to this crazy concept. This is what I did at Tufts. I'm not gonna quiz you on this, but it was socio-social, right, like humans are, eco, so ecology, the environment, and immunology, which is how we stay healthy. So it's really how do social groups like humans or bees stay healthy given the environment we live in? That's what I wanted to understand. Just a slight pivot, but I needed to change because we had more questions. Everybody wants to know, how do we stay healthy? And so many people go to medical school. So I wanted to explore this in a different way. And I started here at Tufts using bees as a system, we call it, a study system, a model, to better understand science, to test hypotheses. But soon, bees started dying. I started here in 2005. And in 2006, bees started vanishing. Not even dying, no dead bodies. Do you remember this? It was called colony collapse disorder, the vanishing of the bees. I was in my first year here in the library day and night. I didn't even know what time of day it was. And people would say, what's happening with the bees? You do bees. I'd say, I just started. I have no idea. I don't know anything. But it showed me that this bees as a system needed to shift to bees as the focus. So it's bees as the subject. And that changed my PhD studies to help answer questions people would ask me. What's happening with the bees? What can we do to help? So I shifted from PhD, which I completed, to CEO. I saw as people asked me questions that there was a demand in the market for what people could do to help save the bees. I didn't know how to do it yet, but I was honest with people. And when folks asked me, how did you scale your business? Did you fake it until you made it? And I would say, no, it was vulnerability as strength. I didn't know what I was doing. At the time, Tufts didn't have an entrepreneurship program like they do now. There's so many amazing things that Tufts has done to be a great citizenship here, along with the Tufts ethos, with the Tisch ethos, forever changing. So I shifted to a CEO. I started my company as a Tufts student. No money, a Facebook page, a dream, an idea, selling beehives. We'll install and manage it for you at your home garden or your business roof. I've never done this before, but bear with me. Pay me up front, because I ain't got no money. And they did. And by being honest, we're 16 years later, and we're a national multi-million-dollar company. It's just understanding how to do good through business while always adapting, being ever changing. As we collect more data from these beehives, we started to realize, what's the point of it? What are we really doing here? And so our corporate clients say, what's the impact from the data? So now we're even shifting just from publishing academic papers, which as Diane mentioned, I do until the cows come home, but who reads them? How do we make an impact? We have to change that. We've changed our terminology these days. We would call it citizen science when we ask people to collect data for us, and now we call it community science. Not everybody's a citizen, but everybody can participate. And as you know, these days, we're talking about sustainability as a dirty word, or ESG as an acronym that can't be said, and we are federal government contractors still, but some of our contacts have had to go through and delete every email that used the word sustainability. So now we say efficiency. So this is how some call it this term code switching. Some of you are familiar with this. You can call me Sarah, you can call me Michael, but I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna make an impact. And that's a term that's very important, and it's very weighted to understand here. When we talk about diversity and DEI, DEIB, we now talk about group performance. If some offices are being eliminated, we understand, how do we do this work in a dispersed and distributed way? Because I can sell you this iPhone, even if you already have one. It's a sales technique. So I have said to salespeople, sell me this pen, which is embarrassing, but how do you sell ice to an Eskimo? It's really by sticking to your values and staying honest and vulnerable. And in doing so, you build trust, and in trust, you get a good product. When you have a good product, you can make an impact while making money. That's what it means to me to be a citizen. And when we talk about higher education these days, it's very important to acknowledge I was not told what to think here at Tufts. Just like at other schools, we're not told what to think, we're taught how to think. And that's what makes a good citizen to me, and that's how we give back. And when we talk about bees, I'm not really talking about bees, I'm talking about data. When I see bees flying around, like today, my mother Lynn and I were able to do a tour with the pollinator student group who have amazing gardens on campus. When I see a bee, I see a data point. I see information hidden in nature that we need to unlock. And some technology these days includes acoustic sensors for your garden, which will soon be much more publicly available, where you will get a text message from your bees in the garden, because the sensor will hear the frequency of the vibration in the air and then tell you through AI, come out now, bring your kids, there's an endangered two-spot checkered butterfly. Come out, this is what it looks like, take a photo, post it on social media, hashtag endangered species. This is ways we build community through innovation and access. So bees are an indicator species. They tell us how the environment is doing, and it's up to us to listen. Are we listening? Are we caring? I believe that we are, and when we're talking about it, that means that there's a solution to be had, and that means there's a business opportunity. And so my approach to bees as a data point, as a shifted perspective, when you go out there and see a flower, I want you to see data and information. What does that flower know that we don't? Why do mushrooms have 3 sets of chromosomes and we have 2? We have 1 set of chromosomes from mom, 1 from dad. Mushrooms have 3. Why do mushrooms have 50% more DNA, more knowledge than we do? Why does a mushroom need to know things? It's up to us to have fun asking the questions and to develop technologies to reveal the answer in ways that build community. So when I see a beehive, I have a 5-step process. Number 1, with the scientific method that I learned here at Tufts, observe nature. Number 2, collect data from it. You can ask a beehive a question. Why are you living? Why are you dying? It's the same question, but I like to say, why do bees live instead of why do bees die? It's less depressing. I will analyze the data, We report it in creative ways, so now we sell data about biodiversity back to companies and the federal government. So we've developed a business model to monetize data, and I always love to talk to students about entrepreneurship to do this too. And then we implement changes. What's the impact? Are we able to get more biodiversity? Here at Tufts, we've been able to transform empty parking lots to thriving pollinator habitat. There is a free little seed library on campus. Did you know this? It's like a free little library. You can get native seeds for free. There are still tremendous amounts of native seeds there from October. It's posted on social media to build community in a free way. This is how impact scales beyond campus. And when other schools start doing it too, they start to see this as the Tisch Tufts model. This is how we drive real impact. It is so needed. And this is the first data graph. I'm a scientist. Don't worry about it. I saw a sigh. I got you. Let me tell you what we're looking at here, because I'm going to break it down. This is the latest data for beehive health in the United States, okay? Federal government isn't doing this. This is independent data. Look at the red line. Along the bottom is the year, 2008, since colony collapse disorder started. That's when we started collecting data on bee deaths. From 2008 to 2024, okay? This is a timeline. Looking at here, going up on the y-axis, this is the percent loss. So 20%, 30%, 40, 50, 60. As we go up, more beehives are dead. As we're looking at the red, this is the total losses of beehives in America, the red line at the top. The blue line is winter, the orange one is summer, combined at the red. What you're seeing here is an increase in bee deaths over the years. What you're seeing is this 50% threshold was first reached just 2 years ago, and then last year, hit 55%. What you're seeing here on the right, backyard beehives and commercial beehives. Commercial is for large producers. The backyard beehives last year, 2024, hit the upper 50% deaths of beehives. Last year, same thing with commercial hives. We have unprecedented losses. Last year was the first year where commercial beehives had higher deaths than backyard ones. This year, the new data are here. Coming out of California right now, 62% of beehives are dead. What does this mean for our food availability when we rely on honeybee pollination for fruits, crunchy almonds? Every single almond you bite into was pollinated because a honeybee touched it. Every lemon, 90% of lemons, 90% of apples, food availability, food prices, the global economy relies on bees as pollinators. Pollinators promote plants that give us oxygen, and when we don't have enough oxygen, that really is an obvious problem. What we're doing at the Best Bees Company is working on solutions. If you could hit a button for me over there, Jess. Where our losses at the Best Bees Company are 0. This is our data in some of our regions right now. How have we done this? We do this through community science. We do this through service. We do this through the Best Bees Company. So this is where we install and manage research beehives at home gardens, business roofs, 25 cities. We connect these beehives in your own backyards as a research network. We're starting what's called a blockchain. If you're familiar with some blockchain work, this was like a hot word a couple years ago, right? And we're like, oh, Ethereum and what is the other one? That's the currency, Bitcoin, that's it. Right, so we hear about blockchain technology, but it's never really been applied, let's say, to good, dare I say it. When you have hardware in beehives that can then detect bee health of each other hive, you start to download data in each beehive, hardware and software. And so we have a detection system for bee health. And this is what we've done. We're in all of these cities, and we start to separate it out into blue zones and red zones. So this is where bees are doing well and where they're not doing well. This line out of human health. And when we apply this to our latest paper we're submitting this month called Why Are Our Bees Dying?, we're able to understand that from 3 years ago, when it was less than half of the hives that died, the main problem was mites. Mites are what's killing the bees. They came to the US in 1987. And nutrition is what's saving them. This is when you plant native, biodiverse plants. And so while we've been publishing all of this information, op-eds in the New York Times and the LA Times, we see bees as a bipartisan issue of support. We have all of these, but when we're publishing papers, again, with the impact and citizenship, not everybody reads these. And so we have to do more. We have to do it ourselves as citizens. And this is one of my current research groups at Stanford, where we're going out there. I call them the Stanford nerds. One of them is developing a nuclear reactor in his garage. I'm like, settle down, okay? Hardware and software in the beehives with AI technology that can detect the mites, and they can raise the temperature of the beehives to a point that kills the mites but doesn't kill the bees. We can detect with a camera here the color of pollen coming in, and using AI technology to tell us what's in bloom, to tell us if there are invasive species around, to tell us the information, to uncode what bees know, to be more in tune with them. And so by doing this, we're able to understand new technologies, like the science here of red light therapy. Has anybody used this on your own cosmetics before? Mom, right? My posse, of course. This is a new cosmetic trend where red light triggers the mitochondria of our cells to make more energy, to make more ATP, and it can metabolize toxins faster in the different layers of skin. And we do this now in bees. So for smart hives, we can turn on the red light and it will help bees metabolize pesticides faster just through turning on the lights. So these are organic solutions that give us hope in very dark times, at least for bees. And when we're looking at different research, if this was a science group and they would remember my dissertation stuff, I mean, this is all directly related to what I did here at Tufts. Since Tufts, I've been working with MIT, developing some crazy tools. My job there was to answer the phone when bees would do a student project, when students would do a project with bees. I got a call saying, we're gonna send bees into space. I was like, what? No, why would you do that? This was the space capsule that the students designed. It went up on a Jeff Bezos rocket with Blue Origins, and we had a student in Texas running around trying to find the capsule after it landed. It was ridiculous. This is what they designed. It went into the Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco as an exhibit. And this is the actual video from the 2 capsules with bees. They went up into orbit for 3 minutes. They hung out for 3 minutes, and they came back down for 3 minutes. Again, why? Why would you do this? Well, it was the 3rd time in human history that bees have ever been sent into space. The first 2, the bees were not returned. This time we were able to return them all and rear them up on the rooftop at MIT safely. We called them space queens. And we learned a lot about how social organisms respond to stress and pressure. And we learned that in both groups, the workers stood around the queen. They were kind of rubbing her back, but they were like, we got you. We're gonna do this together. And if we're gonna have future farming in space, we don't want people hand pollinating. And I know we have enough problems today here on Earth, right? Again, back to citizenship. But there is space agriculture happening. We just had 2 astronauts stuck in space for months. If we do live on the moon or Mars, we're going to need food, and we need the services of pollinators to help us get that. So now as we're turning around space to land the talk, we have a bee's eye view over here of Boston, and on the left, it's a human eye view. And we think about, where are we possibly going to put rooftop hives? How could bees enjoy that? And so we work with NASA to look at satellite imagery for the different uses. NASA has so many different satellites available for research, and we're able to understand a bee's eye view and how we reimagine rooftops in cities. If we had green rooftops everywhere in the world, they are 40 degrees cooler than their next door gray rooftop. Imagine amenity decks. Imagine if we could do this right on the rooftop. Why can we not do that? We could achieve the Paris Climate Accord goal of limiting global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius with green rooftops alone. Why this is a controversial issue, I don't know, but this is why I say, put me in, coach. I got this one. Green rooftops add value to real estate. They insulate buildings and lower operating costs. After COVID, everybody wants a sustainable building. We're seeing data patterns for living and office space in a place where you can grow carrots for your family from the roof. Why can't we do that? We can do that. And I think having a bee's eye perspective helps. So I want to share some National Geographic data. When we looked at a deep dive of honey to see the plant data inside, we started to reveal the terroir of cities. We started to understand, when you taste honey, it's not all the same, it's flower juice. This is what my neighborhood tastes like. And this empowers people with what to plant more of. So if you scatter some seeds from the Tufts free little seed library, you start to change the flavor of campus because you did that. And we're listening to the bees based on the plant DNA and honey for what to promote. What plants do they like? because when we have healthy bees, we have a healthy environment too. So for Tufts, on the left here, in National Geographic, we published this sumac, apple. I'm gonna say those other two. I know linden was the top one. It must be cut off here. This is what Boston tastes like. Sumac, apple, and linden trees. We don't really think about trees as supporting pollinators. New York City was the honey locust tree. Also linden and stone crops. You see other cities that we investigated, San Francisco, rosemary, eucalyptus, and pine. And when we work with the community as good citizens, we learned that you cannot promote eucalyptus. It's not native. Eucalyptus catches fire a lot. Eucalyptus trees will drop a log on your car at will. It's not good to promote. So when we shared this information, we learned it's so important to talk to the community about our data to help us interpret that. Lastly, we also have been doing natural experiments with hurricanes, natural disasters, forest fires. This is an image of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico in 2017. If any of you remember this, this is Puerto Rico, okay, behind here. It went right across the island and it destroyed the majority of vegetation. We had honey from before and after the hurricane. We published these results last year. On the left, the honey was mostly clover, trefoil, and begonias. I mean, it was three things, non-native and invasive mostly. After the hurricane, what grew back? We've seen this consistently with natural disasters. It's native plants. We see this with the wildfires too in California. So what can we do as citizens to help increase our resiliency against the tremendously growing impacts of these natural disasters? If we plant native plants, they will bounce back sooner, and that will increase our resiliency. The sooner our environment bounces back, the sooner everything else can bounce back too. Okay? So when I die, it's going to say, here lies Noah plants a flower, and that will be very exhausting for my whole career because we already knew that, but it's nice when things make sense and confirm. I'm just going to finish up by showing you on our nonprofit website, Urban Bee Lab, there's a map of the world. We're mapping out the world's pollinator plant habitat. This is Cape Cod and Boston. We share our results for free with the world. So this is Falmouth, pine, oak. This is Chilmark, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Harwich. These are all places around Cape Cod, Chatham, Easton Provincetown. So we share with people these results. And we're trying to build practical applications coming back to the Lion and Glentown citizenship model here. So for planning, rebuilding, researching, advising politicians, again with the federal government, for each of you, planting more native plants, joining the Great Green movement for rooftops and lands, minimize pesticide use like we're doing with bee health, advocate for legislation that promotes and protects pollinator habitat, and join our research network of these data-yielding beehives. Repurpose any open space that you have and think what more could be done with the resources I already have by collecting data on it that really can help make an impact and help you stay up to date in this ever-changing world that we live in. So thank you so much, I appreciate it.
All right, so
This is so fun.
yeah, thank you so much, Noah, for just like totally exceeding my expectations of
Is it
how.
time for the quiz?
I don't feel smart enough to quiz you. Are you quizzing me? Because I think I paid attention enough. But you've certainly given us a lot to think about the science of pollinators and all the possibilities, as well as a call to action for all of us and a challenge to support you in this task. So I'm going to take a few minutes to ask you a couple of questions more into your journey and the different values that have shaped your work, because that's like what I do.
Yeah.
And then we'll open it up for questions from the floor. Okay, so you just told us about bees as a barometer for environmental health. What else have they taught us about how we as humans care for our communities and our ecosystems?
I love this. Well, it's been such an amazing change since I was at Tufts, where most people were still very scared of bees. And any place that had bees, including Tufts, we had them behind the gym. it was really like hush hush, don't tell people, because mom and I was born in New York City, and we just like squashed bugs. Right? Did anybody grow up like that? If you see like wild, just kill it. Spray the raid. And I always wondered, why do we do that? Like, where did this come from? And so the world has changed so much, I think, because we ask questions. And that was one of the best lessons I ever received from a coach that I had, so from our 100 coaches group. It was just to ask questions and then try to learn. And that's what I think goes back to citizenship with ever changing. So wondering, why do we do this behavior? Why do we...
Look, the world's scary. And mom and I all day today, we're talking about how do you make a change when you just want to stay safe, right? How do you speak up? You protest if you are scared. And, we're Jewish. And I said to mom, this must have been what it was like during the war. And mom said, you make change, but, you do it on the slide. That's how you do it. And there's so much to unpack and think about here. But as it comes down, I think, to community and, just using bees as a very gentle example, when we guide each other and we stay connected, and that's how we can grow and make a real impact.
So you talked a little bit about this, about becoming an entrepreneur in grad school, which I can't even begin to imagine, having gone through that process myself. It was like literally all I could do to get out of bed every morning and, write 3 more sentences on my dissertation. But you did it, and I applaud you. That was a very courageous thing. So in that journey, was there sort of a defining moment that you realized this isn't just about, writing the paper or finishing, but like this is your life's work and your mission?
Yeah, for sure. I felt that throughout my journey at Tufts, and I really appreciated how the culture here allowed me to pursue whatever I wanted to. It would be very helpful when faculty would check in. They'd be like, hey, you're going a little off in your own direction, but I think that was encouraged. So my publishing career, I think I had 12 papers while I was here. It was just what we were doing. We didn't even really stop to think about it. And so when I started the company, it was really a function that we never received a grant. And these days, so many people's grants are getting cut. And in 2013, Science Magazine covered my case study for how do you fund research in your career? Like, sell bugs on the internet. It's sell something, and for me, it was selling a product that got us more data and helped grow the business. But that was, I didn't grow up with much. Mom was an amazing single working mom with multiple kids. It's a New York City school teacher. It's all I knew, right? So how do you do research? How do you make it work? You just keep going, and then if the floor drops out, okay, well, you're gonna land somewhere. And it always does work. And I think it's really important to remind ourselves in these times of transition, it's the world that we live in, and we have a great support network. Over time, the media started noticing, and that was my marketing. Everybody just started talking. I got an email, do you want to give a talk at TEDx Boston? I didn't know what it was. And they said, talk about beekeeping. Like, okay. And then that went viral. Like 1 million people saw it.
It's a great talk, and everybody should look it up.
And they said, do you want to write a book? I said, I don't have time for that. And I did it. And that led to a book tour. Things just all started to build in ways that I never really paused. I just kept going.
Yeah, my favorite Joseph Campbell quote is, you have to let go of the life that you envision, find the life that's waiting for you, right? Because I would imagine that, you come to do a PhD in a very scientific thing, that the natural trajectory is like, oh, you're gonna go be a tenure track professor and just be more academic, and you sort of forged your own path in a pretty dynamic and meaningful way.
Yeah, thank you. And I remember learning about business, not from Tufts, because again, there was not much here at the time for business education. I was bartending at a business school lobby, and I would overhear their conversations, and I would overhear their opportunities, and they would be meeting with their professors, and I would just eavesdrop. I would slowly give them a drink to just is that lesson. And that was my business education. Just decided, there was a competition at MIT called the 100K entrepreneurship contest.
We have that here now.
That's amazing. And so I entered there and I won the pitch contest, so $2,000. And the next day I went into the bar where I was working, and all the business students said, the bartender won? I said, you need to respect your service workers. So snap against me all the time. Respect one another. You never know people like
That's
that.
right. That's right. Yeah, that reminds me of the Francis Mr. Yee story and the laundry guy, and it's you just don't know. So you're doing the science and then you're an entrepreneur and you have this deep civic impact. So, Tufts, you talked about Tufts shaping that experience in some kind of way, but it sounds to me like a lot of that was like self-directed. So how could we do a better job in higher education to support future change makers and entrepreneurs?
That's a really great question. So with the Best Bees Company, I always tell my team to bring your whole self to work, which just means that we're acknowledging that there is something going on. Actually, my best friend, I got her an ashtray for a gift years ago. And it said, everybody hates you. Everyone's gonna hate you for something. And it's just like, everybody's got something that they're going through. And so we have to be able to acknowledge it. You don't have to talk about your issues at work, but here in academia, if somebody has a business idea or a job idea, whatever it is, we need to hold space for that. To let people know it's okay to talk about it. Because that's who you are, that's what you're thinking. And if you have to show up and feel like you can't talk about certain things, it means you can't be you. And it's not gonna work. We can fake it a little bit, but why? It's a missed opportunity. I think what people want, and I lost myself for a few years in my CEO job where I thought I needed to play a certain role in order to get ahead. It did not work. And my team was like, who are you? And I was like, I don't even. And I remember at the time I had long hair and it was really ugly, but I would part it. I was in this one meeting and I parted it the other way and I said, this is the real me. I just want to let it go. And like, who are, this is weird. My point is, by not being my authentic self, I lost the trust of some people. And that hurt my business and my career. And so no matter who you are, what you're doing in academia, we need to encourage that.
Yeah.
Because that's how people are going to be successful.
Yeah, so that's a really good segue into the question. No, like being honest about who you are. So this award celebrates leadership, integrity, and civic engagement. So you talked a little bit about integrity, but how do those values resonate with you in your choices as a founder and a scientist?
Yeah. When I give talks to students about entrepreneurship, and I love going around the country and speaking to school, I always talk about, and we talked about this in our class earlier today that we got to join, about what makes you stand out. Maybe you were bullied, maybe you were picked on as a kid. Who wasn't? Certainly wasn't, being a little gay kid. And no matter what it is, that means you stand out. That means you have a brand. And as an adult or as a worker, that means you have some value, no matter what you're picked up. Okay, so I was picked up for being gay, right? So if somebody asked me a question about it, I would say I'll answer it, but that'll cost you $1. And that means I'm in business as a consultant. And so being able to flip it and say, we talked about vulnerability as strength, but we talk about authenticity as well and integrity as brand. Not just your career brand, but that's who you are. And so many kids, Rekha, I love your daughter, right? She's like, very sweet. And, at that age where it's like, we're finding out who we are. And I love her so much. And I see that in her and it makes me remember who I was, because the brand issue, yes, it's important as a business, but the more you know who you are, the more integrity you build in yourself and the more you trust yourself. And then the better you can comport yourself to others, because that's who you is. So I think that's a strong message, and I struggle with it too. I think we all do, but by struggling and letting others know that you do, I think again helps build trust through integrity.
Yeah, everybody has something, right?
Yeah,
everybody has something. Okay, so I'm just gonna ask one more question, and then I'm gonna give the room an opportunity to ask you a few things, and then we got games. I know, they're amazing. So what's the big question or thing that you're thinking about now that maybe keeps you up at night, you can't stop thinking about, that might be pushing you to the next chapter? Well, actually, I lied, I got one more question.
Yeah. So I didn't learn about business in school. I was bartending, eavesdropping. I was figuring it out. And so I've grown a business that is big, and we have investors, and there's opportunities. There's opportunities for impact. And it's so important for me, this is what keeps me up at night, to remember who I was when I was here at Tufts. Why did I start this? Because after 16 years, for anybody's life or career, you don't lose yourself, you don't forget yourself, but it's so important to pause and find a way to go back and think, how would I have felt back then about where I am now? To have that conversation with myself, and then to flip it. Where am I going to be in 16 more years? And what do I wish for myself then? And what favors can I do for my future self now? What's future Noah going to say about my current decisions? And how do I stay true to that desire for impact and business? I don't think they need to be separate. So that's something I think about. How do I make business decisions that stay true to myself, that support my company and my people, and that really honor it? And all the times that I might want to walk away or change, course, or just say I quit, I'm sure we've all been there. How do I make sure that if I do those decisions, kind of feels like the easy way out, that past Noah won't hate me and future Noah won't hate me? That keeps me up a lot.
So I invited you to my class. When was that? Like November, December, teacher class in leader development here. And you had a great message that I think it will become your next book about how bees behave and inform us in really important ways. And you talked a little bit about the bees in space and what they did. So, can you give us a little sneak peek into how this might materialize?
Yes.
What some key lessons that bees teach us as humans to be better community members?
I love that. Oh my gosh. And Diane brings so much experience with your career as well in different facets. 30 years at the Army, teaching, 8 years here. I mean, it's really inspiring to me. And so when I think about leadership, this book concept I'm working on with my husband, I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. You'll tell me later if I should or not write a book with my new spouse. Maybe a bad idea. But he went to business school, and at Harvard they do case studies. And for here at Tufts, we studied systems, as I mentioned. So bees, termites, ants, wasps, they've been around for 100 million years. We humans have been around for tens of thousands of years, and we're still trying to figure it out. So what lessons can we learn from nature? I call this book Natural Leadership. Kind of has a fun twang to it, and I feel like it's very West Point in a way, like how do I'm a natural leader, I don't know, we'll workshop it, you'll tell me. And there's amazing things you can learn by combining business principles but with case studies. So with Billy, that's from the real world, from companies and how have they navigated change management. And then with bees, bees navigate change management with 5 simple steps. I can step you through it really quickly because for a beehive, it's 80,000 bees, individuals in a hive. And the worker bees, any one individual worker bee can drive huge change. She can tell the whole beehive, hey, we're gonna move, or we're gonna go eat over there. 1 in 80,000? Like, how is that possible? So what can we learn for those moments where you might be at work and you're thinking, this is a really big organization, or nobody's listening to me, or I have a great idea. Wow. How do I make this company change to implement what I want, what I know is going to be good for everybody? Well, what bees inform us is these 5 steps. So the first thing is you need to discover it. That's why diverse groups outperform homogeneous groups. We think about DEI, we think about performance because when you have light shining on the corners, you don't have as many blind spots. When you have the same group running a company, your hiring pool is going to be very limited. Your customer base is going to be limited. Your innovation capacity. So you need to discover it, whatever it is. That's up to you. Maybe change your commute to work and you'll find something new. Second is you tell the people around you. And if they think it's cool, they will go out and validate it. But you need to shut up at that point. Okay, don't be annoying. So like a bee, you tell your innovation to the people around you, and then you stop. It's enough. If they validate it, the third step is, with bees, they need only about 5% of the hive to drive change, to agree to they validate. With humans, it's about 20 to 25%. So if you're a politician, you only need that much of the vote, really. Then they say, hey, town hall, we're all getting ready. There's going to be some change happening. Everybody meet, there's communications. Step 4 out of 5, we're going to go meet outside if we're going to move, or we're all going to go in one area, or you get the directions in an email. Here's what the change is going to be. It'll all be laid out. And then step 5 is when they move. Bees have like crossing guards to be like, okay, go this way, go this way. They'll coordinate that. And that's just like at work with the communications team, or maybe it's a message. And then they execute big change. Really nowhere in there is there the queen bee or the CEO. This is where we conduct as the queen bees. It's so important to recognize the powers of the workers. It really is. And as a CEO myself for so many years, I know that I'm doing my best, but this is the team. And it's just like the hive. And it really is an empowering message for any worker bee or worker person, or any person in your own real life, to understand that I'm a natural leader. I can take these lessons from nature and understand how to improve my life and my system.
Yeah, on my first day of class, I asked people why they're there, and they're like, oh, to get more followers, and I said, well, you're in the wrong class, because leaders develop other leaders, that's what they do, that's our most important thing, I'm glad the bees validate that
Yeah.
for us. Okay, so we have a few minutes for Q&A from the audience, and I don't know, I guess we need the microphone because of the Zooms. So Jess has microphone, and if somebody wants to ask a question of Noah, please signal to her and she will bring it over to you. Yes, and please say who you are and respond.
Hi, I'm Madeline Silvera. I am a current master's student at Tufts University. This is my mom. A master's in data analytics. This was particularly interesting to me to know how, you can use data in the areas of sustainability. But my question today is, so how do you go about convincing, say, a commercial real estate company that this type of investment is something that would be worthwhile for their business?
Oh my gosh, this is so fun because I do this very well. I'm sorry, but this is what I do. And I had no experience with it. So I think for you, listening to others rather than speaking. Renee Gervais on my team says I have 2 ears and God give me 2 ears and 1 mouth, meaning listen twice as much as I speak, to understand the problems that they're facing. So real estate or any other company that might have an ability to drive real impact because they have land or they have funding. Some banks that we work for, they say our budget is not limited for sustainability. Like, oh my gosh, okay, great. So data analytics, amazing, because real estate companies need data, and that's ever changing. Because I do believe that real estate companies want and need to be good citizens. They need to be in a neighborhood and show that they're not bad people. And so there's a big contest for who's the best real estate company. What does that mean? Well, what data are they collecting? What standards are they living up to? Do they make their own standards? Do they have awards that are impressive for their tenants, like LEED, which is a green building certification, Energy Star, EPA award, so many different awards that help their businesses marketing. So data helps sales and marketing by showcasing their the greenest building, or by listening, what's important to your building, what's important to your tenants. For us, the honey is very helpful. So even though we get data from it with how many plants are in the area, biodiversity, sustainability measure, the property owners put on a Santa hat sometimes and give out the honey to tenants. And that makes the tenants happy, so they stay in the lease, and that helps them make money. When they show the occupancy of a building is over a certain threshold, 80%, that shows that's a high demand building, because the data that's going to reports helps their marketing. So listening to what data matters to them, thinking about, okay, can I offer that? Do I develop a sensor? Do I develop a partnership? Those are ways that make it seem very exciting and also can help their marketing. So happy to follow up offline and make any introductions I can to you, or even work with you on your team.
Questions?
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Katie. I'm a master's student studying biology, focusing on ecology. And I was wondering, in communities, how do you fight apathy to this kind of problem and even inspire care, but also engagement in citizen science?
Totally, I love this question. We've done a lot of work, let's say in the city of Boston. So we're working with the Department of Neighborhood Development in Boston. So it's the real estate division at City Hall for years. And they owned foreclosed upon land that they didn't want to own. So they would try to sell it or do something with it. And so we said, well, let's do urban farms and pollinator habitat on these open plots, and you can sell it or do whatever you want. But in the meantime, let's do a program together. When we had 5 pilot sites in Mattapan and Roxbury and Dorchester in Boston, we found that we upset the neighborhood tremendously. And so, when you look at it, sometimes it'd be a group of white people, and it's like, you don't even live here. What are you doing here? Coming in, not connecting with the community. I would go to community meetings, I would listen, understand. Some people would say, hey, if you're putting in pollinator habitat, that raises our property value. We have to pay more taxes and we do not want it. there's so much listening for the community to understand. If you're trying to do community work and they do not want it, do not go there. I'm not saying to certain neighborhoods at all, but I'm saying it's the same thing with data analysis and real estate companies. Not every company wants to do this. Not every company cares. And it's the best use of your time, energy, spirit, everything you have to give and who you are to just find, if somebody's asking you a question, go in that direction and kind of go with the inertia of the impact that you're here to make. And I think that will naturally bring you into communities that are welcoming this idea and also working with them, going to these community meetings to listen, not to speak, not with an agenda at all, but just showing up. I think that's a really important step to drive impact. People start to be like, well, who are you? Why are you here? Start with your community too. And that's the place to start. There's a great nonprofit called Consult Your Community, which is student-led programs across campuses. And I'm happy to introduce you to them too. But I think that it's really showing up and just listening as a grateful guest. And then when people are ready to engage with you, then you take that lead rather than pushing, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah. Last question.
Hello, I'm Julian. I'm a junior who's majoring in biomedical engineering. So I'm an undergrad. I'm applying to medical schools this cycle. So your message has really resonated with me. I've been keeping bees in my backyard for the past 6 years, and I was looking to teach an experimental college course on beekeeping, kind of a how-to backyard beekeeping next spring. And I was wondering if you had any advice.
Yeah, absolutely. So advice for beekeeping, in every county in America, typically, there's a beekeeping club. Have you been to a beekeeping class yet?
No, but I think I will do it.
So with the Boston Area Beekeepers Association that I was a founding board member on, bostonbeekeepers.org, it's a great group. Have you heard of them or been to any of those meetings yet?
No, I've been to there's another group, NCAA, I'm not sure, another beekeeping association conference that I attended, but and also at Tufts Fair, they all have a lot of beekeeping going on as well.
So when I was a Tufts student for 2 years in Tisch Library, I was just reading about bees and I was like, that's it. I need to go to beekeeping class. And I would go to the Topsfield Fair as well, so an agricultural fair, and they have a bee house, and they have a sign up once a week, 1 night a week in the winter, 8 weeks, you take a beekeeping class. And I loved it. Oh, I would sneak out of campus and I would go to that school elsewhere. And I'd be like, let me just learn. There was all these old people and I just loved it so much and I would learn from them. So I had so many mentors off campus. So that's the Essex County Beekeeping Association there. Every county has one. There's also the Massachusetts Beekeepers Association, and it's not a 1-10 meeting. That's where you just meet people in the community. It's very different from here at Tufts, where we're all around experts and students. There, it's people of a craft, and you get a mentor from the community that has nothing to do with any other part of your life, and it's going to be a really weird part, but you make friends there from different walks of life that you maybe never would have experienced, and that's the best way to learn how to do it. You find it just a hands-on mentor off campus. Boston area beekeepers tend to be kind of a more young, diverse group, which is really a fun vibe too and close. But you can always reach out to me as well, or the Best Bees team. And you could join the Best Bees team. We can give you a job.
All right, just said it's time for cupcakes. So I want to thank you obviously for sharing your insights and your stories and being such a great speaker and making me look good. Your work reminds us that meaningful change, it starts with curiosity and it takes root through our courage and our persistence. And it grows when we stay committed to the greater good. So all the love for you. And to everyone who came tonight, thank you for being part of this conversation. Thanks for the great questions. And thank you for your contributions to championing civic engagement in all forms. And I hope you'll stick around for the amazing cupcakes and chat with Noah and his mom, who's joining us from Connecticut. And we're so grateful for how she raised him so that he became this curious, amazing community scientist. And then I want to thank JB Lyon and Tom Benheim again for sponsoring this award. And I hope everybody has an amazing night and feels very motivated to go and engage with some bees.
Yes, the native flower. Thank you.
Thank you.